when you walk by, I hit you with sexy eyes. You look through me as if I wasn't right. Oh no, you didn't just walk on through. It's time to break it down so you know I'm after you. When I come creeping up behind you, that's me you're feeling, and there's nothing you can do. When I come creeping all around you, you try to resist my advance, but you ain't got a chance. When I come creeping.
We're ready for step 3 now, which is the finishing on it. Now there are several different ways that you can finish. On the other walls I did for my photo haul, I used some sandpaper and just went over everything with 60 grit sandpaper, and it kind of smooths out all the ridges from the bed and stuff on the bricks. Gives it more of a smooth look. This, I don't want that look. I want more of an aged, you know, I want to make it look like the plaster had broken off the brick, maybe taking a little bit of the brick with it. So what I'm going to use is a spray bottle with some water in it and my heat gun. If you don't own a heat gun, you can go down, you can get them for 15, 20 bucks. If you go to Harbor Freight, you might be able to get them for less than that. They're usually over in the paint supply area. They're used for removing old paint. You have to be extremely careful with this heat gun because it will melt a hole through this stuff quicker than snot. Whatever term you want to use. Also, when you're doing this, make sure you hold the heat gun straight up and down and just go over the areas that you want to go. Don't go at an angle because it can melt things that you don't want melted. One thing I noticed on the first panel I did was I was not very careful with it when I was doing my edges. I was going at an angle and I actually melted some of the angles. So the sides on that first piece are now kind of wavy. They're not straight and flush. You know, I could probably make the panel work if I won't redo it. But, you know, lesson learned. You know, this is learning for me too. But basically just hold your heat gun just straight up and down, go over the area that you want to go. The process, you know, so you don't melt the whole thing, is you spray a bit of water on the foam first, and then you go over that area with the heat gun, and anywhere where there's not water will melt. So, but that's the next step for me now, is to do the aging. So let's get some of that on film so you can kind of see how it looks. In fact, before I show you that, how about if I give you a close-up look at the panel as it is now before I age it. Okay, as you can see here, there's some rough areas in here, you know, caused by the bits and stuff. But that's, once you're carved, this is what the panel will look like, basically. You know, we'll get down in here, you can see some other grooves and stuff. In it. Okay, so that's what the panel looks like after you're done with your Dremel work and stuff. That's why I was suggesting sanding, or I'm going to do what I'm going to do with the heat gun and the water. Now, something else I should point out too before I get started on that. If you notice here, there's still some, you know, little fragments and stuff in here. You know, if you want to be meticulous about it, you can go through and pick them all out, you know, and get rid of them that way so they're not even on. Nice thing about using the heat gun though, heat gun's going to melt those down. And we'll get rid of the heat gun, will get rid of them. So so it just saves time, just let the heat gun do it. Now I've got the bricks done. I'm going to go over and I'm going to hit the plaster portions real lightly with the heat gun. I want to give them kind of a cracked, aged look. And I don't want to use my Dremel for that. I want it to look more natural. And I'm holding the heat gun a little further away from the plaster. When I did the brick, I was about ½ inch to an inch away. Here with this, I want to be further away to give it more of a lighter coating. Now what I'll end up doing in the 5th and final stage, which is the paint stage, I'll come back through and I'll do some detail work both on the grout lines, on the brick, and on the plaster where I've hit it with the heat gun. Let's look at that. And with that, the carving and detail work on the panels is finished and they are ready for paint. There's the first one that I made. I showed you at the beginning of all this. Here's the second one, sitting right next to it. And all the way up. Okay, now it looks like we've got a couple pieces of plaster stuck to them, you know, here and there. And like I said at the beginning of this, the plaster, I'll be doing different shapes, different sizes. It'll be placed differently on each of the boards. Now, one thing I do want to point out is I made one goof right here on this grout line. I held the heat gun a little too long in that area and it actually melted all the way through the grout line. Now I've got a hole back there. You can see my finger in there. Yeah. But anyway, I might have a fix for that. Something I'm going to try, because I'm sure I'm going to make that mistake again sometime at some point in this. I was thinking about maybe getting some great stuff, you know, that spray insulation in a can, and spraying it in there, letting it dry and hard up, and then go back over it with my Dremel to re-Dremel it out, you know, before I paint it. Problem is, I'm not sure how great stuff will react to the foam board insulation. It might eat the foam board insulation, I don't know. But if that's the case, I've got extra sheets out in the patio. I can cut me a new piece, you know, and just recarve that panel. But anyway, that's the process for doing foam board panels. Almost all foam board panels are, for the most part, similar. Like I said at the beginning of this, it depends on what tools you're using, whether it's a foam, with a hot foam board cutter knives, you're using a Dremel, you know, you can use popcorn effect on them, what have you. But, you know, the principles are basically about the same. For me, this is how I do my Dremel work, and new for me this time is using a heat gun on these things. I've never used, you know, other than that rules sign I made for out in front of my haunt, I've never used a heat gun before on foam board. So, you know, this is kind of a learning experience too. So if anyone's got any advice or tips or anything on the heat gun portion of it, let me know. If you got any ideas, got any questions, let me know. I'll try to help out, you know, where I can. So, but anyway, this is your how-to on foam board carving. I hope you guys learned something and enjoyed watching it. Sorry this monster was so long.